Hi, I'm Philip Hundle. I'm an attorney that focuses on representing landowners facing condemnation proceedings or eminent domain proceedings, whether it be a pipeline, a power line, highway road expansion. So from time to time, I like to put out these videos. When I can, I like to go out in the field and do these videos and give everyone examples of the different features in a eminent domain project that concern me, should concern other landowners. Um, Oftentimes I can't do that because of the noise and the wind and things like that. So what I've done in the alternative is I put some pictures up, or actually put one photo up behind me. It's a photo located here in Wharton County. Some of you all from the county will probably recognize this, but it illustrates very clearly something that oftentimes I bring up to landowners, I bring up to right-of-way agents or condemnor attorneys about the different above ground appurtenances that can be on someone's property or are contemplated to be on their property. And so, as you can see behind me, there's some valve sites related to actually three pipelines that run across this tract of land. One's right behind me. I'm going to move kind of the myself in the photo. So there's three right there. And this also, as you can see, there's a access road right behind me that is something also that's affecting the landowner's property, just like these above ground appurtenances, right? That's the key word or the buzzword that will oftentimes be used in these pipeline easement agreements. And so I want you to be aware of that, pay attention to it. Now, what I want to talk about in this video is uh, something that once again ties in is I've become recently aware of a new project that's happening or that possibly will happen, and it possibly may affect your property if you're in the proposed or projected route of this pipeline. It's called the Matterhorn Express Pipeline, and the calls I've been receiving are from Wharton, landowners in Wharton County, Austin County, and Fort Bend County. I haven't gotten any calls yet from folks in other counties, but I expect that those will probably be coming soon. So let me tell you just a little bit about what I know about this Matterhorn Express project, pipeline project. As I mentioned, it's a pipeline project that the right of way acquisition agents are with Norfleet, and there's lots of different right of way acquisition companies out there. Some larger, some smaller. Norfleet is one of the larger right of way acquisition companies. And on a prior video, I talked about some of my past experience or stories I've heard from landowners about right-of-way agents. And it's just like, honestly, anything, there's different degrees of different degrees of attorneys, different degrees of right-of-way agents as far as I guess their professionalism. And so once again, when you're dealing with a right-of-way agent, just remember that right-of-way agent doesn't represent you. The right-of-way agent represents, he's an agent normally of the condemnor or pipeline company, but the pipeline company in this particular case hired a right-of-way acquisition company to go out, contact landowners like you, and attempt to acquire those easements. That's exactly what that's the name of their company and the category that they fall into. They're a right-of-way acquisition company. So they're going out trying to acquire these easements. Look, the condemnor typically sets out the parameters and the guidelines on which they are to operate, meaning the amount that they're the range in which they can negotiate compensation, the various terms that they're allowed to negotiate within the easement. So, once again, as I see oftentimes with landowners, or the initial proposed easement agreement is it includes the ability to have all kinds of above ground appurtenances. And so this is something that one of my first questions that I will ask a condemnor or a pipeline company in this case is, are you planning to do anything above ground on this landowner's track? And if the answer is no, then there's no need to have those that broad language in the easement agreement. So something to pay attention to, something to be aware of. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to share my screen uh, to just show, once again, I try to be a little more visual. And so let me show you. So the Matterhorn Express pipeline, uh, this is the logo that we've seen, Matterhorn Express. It's an LLC that was created for this project. Norfleet, that's the name of the right-of-way acquisition company that you'll see. At this point, I always try to refer or reference the steps and where we are in the steps or the process. And I want the landowner to understand the steps. And so I want to talk about the steps. I've got on the blog, and I invite all of you to go to the blog. Let me try to reduce my window here to get a little bit smaller. Um, and there's a link to the blog on this video, and so I invite all of you to go to the blog, the website. Lots of helpful information there, including this step condemnation process steps. This is kind of a rough summary of, it's kind of a meshing up of what the law says and law requires, but also um, just in practical terms. And so so we're right here, and I've got my cursor. um, it's the landowner or private, the property owner receives their landowner bill of rights. This is kind of the first contact they've been in contact with the right-of-way acquisition agent. And so we're on this Matterhorn Express pipeline project. We're at step one. That's exactly where you all are. We're not further down in the process. And so just be aware of that it's early on in the process. As with all these projects, I recommend that you as a landowner, it's important to get to know your rights, to know what the condemnor is required to what information they're required to provide you, what information you're required to provide the condemnor, and early on in the process, you aren't required to provide any information. And so, those are important rights and obligations that you need to understand if you're a condemnee, landowner, or condemnor. And so it's important to go find an attorney in your area that can help you with condemnation, understanding the condemnation process and the condemnation matter. So with that, good luck. Once again, wanted to mention this Matterhorn Express Pipeline project. It's just come on to our radar. And so I want to give everyone a heads up out there, so that if you're been contacted and about this project, that you haven't been the only one. There's other folks out there that have been contacted, and there's attorneys out there that do condemnation, handle condemnation cases, that this is what they do. They can be helpful in trying to help you navigate through this process. So with that, good luck.